Okay,
Let's get
we
let's
are we are recording.
all right. So Brandon and
I'm
Jeff
Jack.
and Jack. Final reflection for this semester. Final reflection for both of us. Final.
Yeah,
So it's kind of surreal. Um, so with that, I think we could go ahead and get it started. So I'll
yeah.
ask you, Jack. Over the duration of the program, how do you think you have personally changed?
It's a great question, Brandon. So I was looking at my sketches, and um, I think that I've changed as a person because I never really knew what I wanted to do. And I think that UX has given me at least some sort of structure as to like what my plans could be after college. I still have one more year here, but I think that it's given me like more of a purpose on the professional side of things. And I also think that this program has also just given me a sense of like what the collaborative nature of design looks like and kind of how to navigate that. Um, and then I guess in terms of how I've changed as a designer, I think that um, this is a good thing, but it may come off as not a very good thing. But I think that the more I learn, the more I realize how complex design can be. And it's one of those things that I've heard like the more you know, the more confused, or the more you know, the less you know, or whatever. But obviously, we're more experienced and we have more knowledge. But I think that I just kind of opened myself to the complexity of design, and at the beginning I think I was really scared about how overwhelming it was, and I think we all were. But um, and I think a lot of people have said this for this program, but I don't think you necessarily, I mean, maybe you do, but I don't think you necessarily get better at handling the stress and the complexity. I think you just, or I guess you don't really master it. You just get better and get more comfortable with what to do with those feelings. And you can kind of like, um, I guess you can kind of like manifest those feelings towards doing better work rather than just like being freaked out and kind of confused and stuck. So I think that it's just given me um, a little bit more clarity to be in this program, but also I've sort of opened myself to the complexities of design and also life. So yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. So before joining the UX program, I was a very technically thinking person. Thought of things as black and white. It was one way or the other way, um, and that's kind of how I've navigated my life up until I joined the program. I mean, I came to Purdue because in high school I took engineering classes and I like computers, and I just put them together and computer engineering. Turns out not as good as math as I thought I was. So, um,
Same.
uh, so I mean that's been really nice from the UX program is no math classes. But on a more serious note, I've learned a lot, not just about being a designer and um, feeling empathy to people and whatnot, but being having the ability to reflect upon myself. And it's kind of surreal that we're doing the final, you know, reflection right now. Um, Doing these reflections has really allowed me to open up with my emotions and express them, I guess. I've always been kind of a closed off person, so I don't know. It's been kind of a surreal experience for me. It I've I've grown into more of an abstract thinking. but I still think technically. I like doing more of the research focused UX work, and I mean that's all technical and that's great, but there's only so much you can do with research, and so I don't know. Yeah, I think I think that sums it up.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think it's just so weird because we were talking about this before we started recording, but we've only been here in this program for 2 years,
Hmm.
5 semesters. And it really does feel like much longer than that. And maybe that's because we had 3-hour classes or because we were
Yeah,
in the studio a lot, but it really does feel like the amount of change that we've seen has been so impactful for all of us, even though it really wasn't a crazy amount of time. And so I just think about people in industry who have been at it for 15 years or whatever. And so I can't even imagine how much you might change just in any amount of time larger than what we've had in this program. So it's exciting.
yeah, definitely.
Um,
I mean, relating that to the next question is like, when I came into the UX program, and I mean, looking at my sketch, it's text placement, consumer colors, and revolving around the consumer. And so, my idea of what UX was more web design than anything. I didn't know there was research that went into it or the users, or I just thought it was about making a screen look pretty. Um, and as we've grown as designers, we learned that that's really the end product. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and so I mean, you have all these research methods that you do, and you reach out to people, and that's kind of what I really like about UX is it's not just here's a page, make it look pretty, or here's a user, do your research. It's bringing all of these methodologies together in an abstract way, and every project's completely different. The process is completely different, and somehow connecting all those dots into a well-informed design. Um, and so I don't know. Our understandings change. I mean, every semester, and so I don't think that ends with college. We have a whole career ahead of us, and I mean, this is where we are after 2.5 years, and it's crazy to think about how much we've learned, how much we've done. I mean, it's 5 days, technically 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, but
yeah,
it's set up, the course is somewhat set up like a real world job, and that's where you learn the most. And so I'm curious to see where we are 5 years, 10 years, 15 years before we reach retirement, of just how much we've learned, how much we've done. um, yeah.
yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I think for this second one, I have one of my sketches pulled up here, and I guess I could share, but I'll just describe it. So basically, the first top part is a guy or a person, uh, and there's a door. There's only one door, and then there's an arrow on the other side of it, referring to he would go through one door. And on the bottom, and the title of that one is A Day with UX, and the bottom one is A Day Without UX. And it's the guy, except there's 3 or more doors to go through. And so I think my mental process there was that UX makes things easier. And I think that's definitely true, but I think that when I first started the program, similar to what you said, Brandon, like your understanding changes every year, every day, almost. Like it has so many things that affect what you think about it. And I think that at the beginning, I thought UX was similar to you, like making things look better or making things easier for people, which I think can be the case. But I think that I didn't really see or realize that the user is behind everything. It's all about the user. Um, I guess my original understanding of UX was, oh, if you're a UX designer, like you're just cool because you know how to make things cooler and work better and whatever. But it's really, I've realized now at the end of this program that you have to keep the user at the forefront of the process, which is super basic, super basic thing to say, but I really just think that it's shifted more towards asking yourself throughout the whole process, how is this helping the user? Like, sure, it looks cool, but what is it doing for the person who's going to use it? And I think at the beginning, I just didn't fully grasp that. And similar to what you were saying about the methods, I think that at the beginning, I didn't know how much I didn't know what research was. I didn't know how much research to do versus not. And I think that that's a whole nother element to design that I didn't expect. I think from the beginning, I could see testing being something because it's like you've designed something, you have to see if it works, if the user enjoys it. But I think the research was an aspect that I didn't really grasp or even really think was a part of the process because obviously we realize now that it's imperative. Even if you don't do that much research, you need to know a little bit about what you're doing. So I think that this question says, how did the reality of your experience compare to your expectation? So I would say, I think it also kind of ties back to that complexity. I had this boiled down version of what I thought UX design was when I came into the program. And I think that the program just opened up my mind to what it actually is. And not only that, but what it can look like for different, not only different projects, but different types of projects. Like if you're doing a service design project versus redesigning a website or whatever, each one, and even two people doing the same project are going to come up with different solutions, different research methods. And so I think I just didn't fully grasp the versatility um, of what UX design can be. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think building off that idea of, in the first semester of the program, we were all given the same prompt, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And so, everyone's idea was quote unquote different. I mean, they were all somewhat somewhat similar ideas, but the process that we followed was exactly what was on the prompt that we were given. Is like,
Yeah.
okay, you have to do research, and that's, secondary research, whatever was listed on those prompts. And so every project was, boilerplate. They all looked the same, all the same
Yeah.
methods. And so, it's kind of profound to see how each semester each project started straying drastically different from each other. And so first semester, everyone's was almost the same. Everyone had the same ideas, whether that was for embodied shopping or rating your lift or whatever it was. All of our ideas were somewhat the same. And so,
Yeah.
fast forward a year when we're in the third semester, we're all coming up with drastically different ideas. One that I'm thinking of particularly was the museum project. So, we all had to 3D model this museum, but we all used different tools. We all did it a different way. whether that was a top-down view with a line guiding you through it, or an actual, 3D exhibit that you could walk through. And not just that, but like the research that we did, or the methodologies, or the body storming, or whatever it was. I mean, each project had a uniqueness to it. And I think part of that is the people within the project and the people working with it. Some people are going to be more technically focused and focus on the actual experience, or you have some more abstract people who are designing a vampire museum.
Yeah.
But no matter the case, each project was different in its own right. It had its own identity, no matter what the idea was, how the research was conducted, whatever it was. And so I don't know, that's been one of the most interesting things to me, is watching us be given the same exact prompt and how differently we design those problems. And I think that kind of sheds light on what UX is, there could be three consulting firms all given the same problem. They're all going to tackle that completely different. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. It's unique because it reminds me of that sketch that I believe it was Colin would do with all the squiggly lines, right? And so
Yeah.
that's not just to the process; it's to the chaoticness that a project could be. There's a million different ways you can go, and you're constantly bouncing between and looping back and jumping forward. And I don't know. It's been something really cool to see from all the program, or all the semesters and all the projects that we've done, and then also seeing how those tweaks are made for the current cohorts, and seeing how they tackle the problem compared to how we did. Using
Yeah.
the same methodologies from the prompt that we did, but maybe the actual problem is a little tweaked, and so their ideas are a little different. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been pretty cool.
Yeah. And just a quick side note about the younger cohorts. When I was making my crit document, or the reflection thing for class crits, something I wrote about was how they're using different technologies. And it's only been, whatever, a year or a year and a half since we were doing that exact same project. And even that little tiny advancement in time has changed the way that they approach the project, just because of the technology availability that they have. So like there were much more people doing VR and all of these different things, whereas we were kind of just like, I think I saw the Lyft project or something. We, at the most, it seemed like we were like, okay, well, we can maybe have a tablet, or uh, some sort of screen, or we could have an app. But I think that the advancement in technology, even though it's kind of slight, they have started, like, sort of expanded their minds to like, oh, we can use VR or AR, or how can we like make these things fit together, see how we can make them work. So I thought that was interesting. This third one, or second one, no, third one. What is the learning experience that has most impacted your development as a designer?
Learning experience has most impacted my development as a designer. So from our studios, I would definitely say Experience Studio. It gives us some really unique opportunities that I don't think any other college does, of working, in a real world environment. You have a stakeholder, you have a company you're working with, they give you a problem, or they don't give you a problem, and you kind of have to navigate yourself. And I think the most profound experience from that was, we had 5 semesters, so we had 5 different projects. And so you could technically say 4, because the first one we didn't know what we were doing. We were just being told what to do and doing it. But as you get to that second semester, you start doing TL positions, or like this semester, I was PO. Those experiences are are all different. Whether
Yeah.
it's the team you're with, the scope of the project, whatever it is, it's giving you real world experience. And so I think that's had the most profound impact on me because it teaches us how to talk to the people that we're reporting to. I mean, in Learning Studio, we have presentations to the professors. That's cool.
Yeah.
But in the experience studio, we have presentations to the people that are sponsoring the project. And
Yeah.
I mean, as Purdue UX, we have a reputation to uphold to them, whether that be Avnod, who's an avid participant in every studio that we have, or whether it's a new company that's trying to test the waters. I mean,
Yeah.
it's there's a lot of hard work that goes into it and a lot of dedication, but there's also a lot of communication skills that you learn from this, that you couldn't learn in a learning studio or you couldn't learn in a classroom.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, that's very true. I I would agree with that. It's hard for me to pinpoint an answer, but I think to your point, Experience Studio gives you obviously Learning Studio. You're going to get a grade on your project. You're going to get feedback, but I think Experience Studio, it gives you more definitive like deadlines, and you also have we never want to let down Dr. Gray, obviously, but I think for Experience Studio, you have that added layer of accountability to do a really, really, really good job. And I would say that Learning Studio, it gives you the tools, it gives you the methods, it gives you the way to think about design. And then Experience Studio gives you a very I don't want to say high stakes because it's not like we're in industry, but it gives you a higher stakes place to test out those skills that you learn in Learning Studio. And I think most impacted my development. So I think the thing that most impacted my development as a designer was actually being a team lead in Experience Studio, because it's so much work. It's a ton of work. And I think that sort of opened my eyes to what it would be like to lead a team in industry. Um, and I think that it just sort of opened my eyes to, like what you mentioned, the communication aspect to design. And um, yeah, it was also part of it that made me realize, okay, whoa, this can be a lot of work. It's not really fun and games, especially when you have to talk to a sponsor. You're talking to a person who's leading a company in the real world, you know, and you don't want to disappoint them. So you have to do your best. And so I think similar to Brandon, Experience Studio, I think it's changed in the past year or so, maybe not for the better, but I think that whenever we first started, even as a freshman, looking up to our POs and co-leads and having them say, okay, we're going to go ahead and start this method. This is how we're going to do it. This is what we hope to find from it. And so just watching them sort of orchestrate how the process went was also very helpful. So learning from a young age how to kind of navigate and how to make your way through a project was very helpful or
yeah.
impactful.
And kind of building off that, I mean, I completely agree that the TL experience is one of the most profound. I did a TL for both fall and spring semester, and spring
Yeah,
semester killed me. I mean,
yeah,
absolutely
same.
killed me. You have, one other person with you that knows what they're doing, your other co-lead, and then you have a team of people that have no idea what the hell they're doing.
Yeah,
And so it's not just, you know, being a leader for that team, but it's also being a mentor for every team member that's there, and teaching them all of the things that you wish you were taught your first semester. And so um, that's another profound experience that I've had within UX, is being in that elder position, I guess, of just having a lot more knowledge after these 5 semesters, and being able to translate that knowledge to them. Because that's something that I wish I had my first semester. My first semester was more point and click, and there wasn't a lot of learning experience behind my first Experience Studio project. And so
Yeah.
I think that's been one of the most meaningful experiences of this program, is translating all of the knowledge and teachings and everything that I've learned, whether it be from classes or from personal experiences, and having the ability to, give that advice to the younger people. And hopefully they carry it on to the next, and they carry it on to the next. And it's just, it's continual.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what's so special about our program, is we're so tight knit, and it's not me versus you, it's us versus the world.
Yeah.
And so,
Very true. Yeah.
it's we want to share our experiences and share our knowledge with each other, and keep that trickling down in the program, because the program means so much to us. I mean, it's wonderful. It's designed around us. It's not designed around a paycheck, or designed around tenor, or
Yeah.
having a class pass with an 80% exam rate, or whatever the case. It's about,
Yeah.
giving us the opportunity to be ourselves, I guess, while also
Yeah.
being together.
Definitely. Yeah. And there's these structured questions, but I could talk for a whole day about like just the program. And it's hard to explain to people how it works,
Mhm.
or even how UX works. Like, what is UX design? Everyone's going to have a different definition of what it is, because it's just so many, but that's kind of a sidebar. So the next one is, what things do you take for granted now as a designer that would have felt foreign or odd when you first started in this major? How did you get past those feelings and learn to think differently about the world? What
You
do
want to take it?
what?
I said, do you want to take it away, and I'll follow you up?
Sure. This one's kind of difficult. I probably should have looked at this earlier, but what do I take for granted? I don't know. Do you have something in mind, Brandon?
I mean, it's nothing that we haven't talked about already. It's just, everything that goes on behind the scenes. I
Yeah.
think, what do I take for granted? Whatever felt foreign or odd when I first started, I would say, I don't know. When I came to college, I expected it to be very much individually focused, about, individuality. And so I think in the first couple of semesters of UX, I didn't really appreciate the community as much. And so I think I didn't get as close to some of the older students.
Yeah.
I was friends with a couple of them, but I think what I took for granted was, it took me a little bit to realize how community based the program was. And, it is, I mean, the program's you could say it about college, you could say it about life or anything, but it is what you make it. And I think I took, um, you know, I think I took reaching out to people for granted in the first few semesters, and so I feel close with my cohort. I mean, like Colin was saying in our final class, like there's still going to be those cliques of people, and I mean, that's just how it goes. You click with some people more than others, or you work well with some people more than others, and so I think uh, I think just expanding my bounds in those first few semesters. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah.
Answer, I guess.
What's interesting? So this is like kind of a half serious answer because I don't know what to say, but something. So I don't know that I'll just build off what you have to say because I honestly have no idea. Um, I think that so I have anxiety and it's not like awful or anything, but I think that the collaborative nature of everything kind of scared me a little bit. Similar to you, just didn't really expect everything to be so group oriented and but now, and I think there's still that little bit of tension when you first get in a group with people you don't know, even within the program Studio One, you get a new project and you get grouped with people that you've maybe never talked to. There's still that tension at the beginning, but I think that so how did I get past these feelings, learn to think differently about the world? So I think I realized that we're all kind of in this program together, and so whoever I get paired with, whatever, it's gonna be just fine. So I think something that helped me get past those feelings and helped me think differently about the world was that you can't. As I progressed through the program, I always thought about freelancers for some reason. And I don't want to be a freelancer for the reason that you can't really collaborate with people. I mean, you can, but you're a one trick pony. Like you're just yourself and the company and that's it. And I
Mhm.
think that I actually really came to enjoy the collaborative nature of things. Um, Some would say that they like group work better because of social loafing. And I think that definitely happens to people. But I think that it's just so, I don't know. I think that you need a group or you can't just do this profession, you can't do this design work on your own. And that's kind of what I realized in this semester. It's very, very, very hard to progress and make decisions without feedback or without an external opinion.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't think that really answers that question at all, but I guess we can just move on. If you could give the incoming freshmen or grad students, Brandon, any advice, what would you share?
Yeah, so I had an answer for this before we started recording, and then I've just forgotten.
It's all right.
The advice that I would give, learn as much as you can from other people. Um, I know it's really hard when we're in this remote work, because the idea of these cliques is very clear, especially for Experience Studio. I mean, how often do you talk to other teams, or how
Yeah.
often do you talk to other TLs or upperclassmen? You really don't. Um, and so, my advice would be to just talk to people. I do remember my original answer. So there's two things. don't think of this class as another check on the list compared to your other classes. This isn't psych, where you have a weekly assignment, check it off
Yeah.
the list. It's a fluid machine.
It's a mindset
It's a
almost.
mindset, yeah. And so, we've seen people come into the program, and we've seen people leave the program. Um,
Yeah.
and it's not because maybe they weren't interested, or maybe they weren't up to the work, or whatever it is, but it's it's kind of doom and gloom. It's not for everybody. I mean, and that's just what it is for everything, I guess. So there's that. And also, you should you should really care about your reflections. That's been the one thing that I have appreciated most from this program, is doing these weekly reflections. Because I mean, I was going through and I looked at my first semester reflections, and they were just, you know, I had a good week. This is what happened. It's been cool. You know, I'm struggling with my psych class. And then you look at this semester's, and I mean, the dynamic of these reflections were a little different, of relating it to a reading. But
Yeah.
you look at this progress, and it's like, oh, I had a bad week, and you don't elaborate on it. And so in these ones, it's like, I had a bad week. I was feeling anxious about blah and blah. I've been working towards fixing this on myself. You open up more. You feel vulnerable, I guess. And so this is the reflections are definitely something that I don't want to stop doing, just because I'm not in the program anymore. It's not required of me.
Yeah.
Because I do have all of my semester's reflections saved in a document. I treat it like a journal. I don't treat it like another, check on the list of, oh, Sunday I got to do my reflection and my readings.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
It's a self-reflection moment. It's not for the reflection of the professors to read how your week was. It's a reflection upon yourself and your feelings, and throwing those out there and being vulnerable with one another.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I would agree with that. I think the reflection really grew on a lot of people. I think at first it was kind of like, why, how is this beneficial? What does this do for me? And then I think there was a moment where it kind of hits you like, you know what, I really don't mind doing these. Like,
Mhm.
okay. Uh, and so I think the reflection is a big part. What I always tell the younger cohorts, so I'm a PO as well, and in my one-on-ones with the freshmen, um, I always tell them, this is sort of in line with Studio One. Um, I don't know about learning objectives, but I always tell them to don't let the chaos get the best of you. I think a lot of us, even when we were in Studio One, like I got a 24 or 25 on my first project. And I was kind of just like, whoa, so I said in the very last class, there was never a moment that I wanted to leave. That was the moment where I was considering not staying in a major. And uh, luckily the only time, but um, I think that if you let the chaos get the best of you, then there's no chance for you to find your designer self, I guess. Because if you let it get the best of you, you're not open to new information. You're not open to, I don't know. I just think that if you're confined and you don't embrace the chaos, you're not going to have creative solutions. Um, it's going to be very linear, which is just not good. Um, so I don't know. I probably didn't describe that very well, but I think embrace the chaos is the first one, and don't let it get the best of you, because it will. Like I said earlier, I don't know if anyone is an expert at handling the chaos, but I think you can become more comfortable with it and kind of learn how to navigate it.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. So I was thinking of an analogy to kind of, I don't know, understand what you're trying to say better. So it's like you go out into a field with a shovel, right? And so, the start of the project, you're digging the hole, you're doing what you need to do, and then you get to this point where you can't get out of this hole. And so, how do you deal with that? Do you just sit down and give up? Do you use the shovel to prop yourself up, or do you dig steps into the whatever the case? You have two options: it's get out of the hole or give up. And so, um, the hole represents that chaos in the project, and I think the shovel is your self-wit, I guess. And
yeah,
so
yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I guess one other piece of advice that I thought about yesterday in the last Studio 5 class was, I think Studio 1, Studio 2, you're kind of like, when you look at the perusal readings, you're kind of like, it's a task. It's something I got to do before 11:59 Sunday night. Classic assignment. But I would encourage the younger freshmen or grad students here to don't just treat them as another assignment. Try to open your mind to what the readings are trying to tell you about where the professors want us to be thinking. Like, I think the readings obviously align with kind of our thinking as we navigate the semester. So I would encourage freshmen or grad students to embrace what the readings are talking about, because the professors intentionally place readings at certain points throughout the semester. And it's not just, here, read this thing because I need an assignment for them to do. It's
mhm.
intentional, and they are meant to teach us or help us, or get us in a certain headspace about something within design that we can then talk about and have engagement and conversation with the professors and with others about. So I think, even though some of them are really long, and you don't have to read the whole document, but just try to invest yourself into the perusal readings, because they can actually be super helpful. And you would never find those readings elsewhere.
Mhm.
It's very doubtful that you would actually go and look up academic journals about UX design. So you might as well read them because they're going to be helpful.
Mhm.
That's what I would say.
Definitely. I mean, you have those journals and you have the books that we have to get every semester.
Yes.
And so I think the professor's goal with the readings was, they could have made it so here's an article, write a quick paper on it. But instead they make us, comment on specific parts of that reading and open a discussion with everybody else. And, that may not work 100% of the time, and everyone's conversations are kind of split up. But, I could tell you a few handful of times where I've had some good conversations with other peers in the cohort or the professors about whatever the hell it was, one little excerpt of a 40-page paper. And
Yeah.
so it's not about, I mean, it's obviously about the takeaways that you get from those readings. They're obviously placed there for a reason. It's not, here's an assignment, go do it.
Yeah.
But it also allows you to think deeper and more critically about what the words are trying to tell you and how you interpret those. And so you,
Yeah. And design as a whole. Like, the more you read about it, about design with those perusal readings, you kind of think it almost subverts your expectations, but in a good way, because you end up learning more. Because maybe before you read a paper, you think, Okay. I think that a co-design might be a great method to use here. And then you read a paper talking about co-designs, and maybe you realize maybe it's not. Maybe I need to have these certain conditions in line for me to decide when to employ this method or whatever. I think that they just really are helpful. So yeah, do your readings.
Do
Um,
your reflections.
yes. What lessons, Brandon, do you want to take with you into your career?
Yeah, so I've been talking a lot about the reflections. I talked about it yesterday. I talked about it a lot today. But it's just be open with yourself, be honest with yourself, be honest with others. Feelings are a big part of what we do, and if you don't know how to feel your own, how can you expect to understand the feelings of your users?
It's
Um,
true.
so that's one of the biggest lessons is, as a not only as a designer but as a person, I feel like we need to be in touch with our feelings and understand our feelings, whether that's anger, whether that's happiness, whether it's sadness, whether you know anxiety, whatever it is. You need to be open and upfront with those, because if you just dive them down deeper and deeper and deeper, one day it's going to explode on you. And so I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned as a person. um, from UX, I would say collaboration is key, especially in a field like UX. You need to think of whether the design is benefiting you or benefiting the person you're designing for. Um,
Yeah, that's a great point.
I, I think a group of people that you work with is a major resource, I guess, to kind of put you in check. And that was one of the problems that I think a lot of us were having with uh, the capstone project. It's just us, and so we were getting feedback every milestone. And so there were, what, 5 or 6 feedback sessions that we had for the semester. And so we had to
Yeah,
keep ourselves in check of, are we designing for who we want to design for, or are we designing for the project that we envision? um,
yeah,
and so I think that's one of the biggest lessons is, people are a resource, use them.
yep. Yeah, that's a great point. I think the collaboration piece is big. And once again, going back to that freelancer idea, and relating to the capstone project, like we know people who do design. We know people who love design. But what if you're a freelancer who doesn't know anyone who knows anything about design? Who do you go to? How is that helping your designs? I'm guessing it's hurting them, but I could be wrong. I don't know. So I think the collaboration piece is a big part, like Brandon said, um, because you can. Colin always used the word cross pollinate, and I think that's an interesting way to put it. You can share skill sets. You may have one person who loves visual design and that's their thing and they kill it with visual design. But you may have someone who's more of a coder. And for a project like the civil engagement or what was it? Oh, digital civics project, where we had to have the HTML and we had to have the um, obviously the empathy side behind it, where you're actually helping people in the community. That is a great example of having people from different skill sets kind of come together and create something that's awesome, you know? Um, so I think that just be open. And even if you have 3 people who are all visual design people, and that's all of your things, and you're not different in your skill sets, don't try to make it a one versus the other, bring them all together and create something even more awesome than just one of those people would create. So I think that's a big part of And then another thing that I had um, was a lesson that I want to take with me is presentations. You know, I'll I'll be in other classes and I see people create presentations and they're terrible, and it's not their fault. You know, they just they get a Google Slides template and they just get after it, and uh, it's not anyone's fault, but I think we are now accustomed to such a higher level of how to portray what you're talking about, and all the feedback and all of the class crit on Slack feedback. And, why did you have this screen here? Can you make this bigger? You should have annotated this. I don't really see how your character is coming back into this process. There's so many things to think about. On the contrary, I have heard people in industry say, you guys go nuts with the presentations. I think we had a guest speaker that came in and said, you guys have awesome presentations, but in reality, in the workplace, you just kind of throw some slides together, which could be true. I don't know. But I just think the larger umbrella idea of portraying your work to others is extremely important. So that's a lesson that I will definitely take forward. And now I'm kind of a nerd and I like to do presentations sometimes, it's like, ooh, some visual design stuff here. Like, let's get it.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah.
Yeah, I was
Okay. Last question. No, go for it.
so I was actually doing my one-on-ones with my Experience Studio team yesterday, and it's crazy to think about that some of the students that we have now haven't had any in-person presentations. And so I was
Yeah.
telling them, I was like, you go all semester dreading the final presentation, standing in front of 100
Yeah.
people, and your
Yep.
sponsors are on the phone or they're there in person. And so,
Yep.
you're expected to give this wonderful final presentation. And you're standing up there and you're shaking, and you're
Yeah.
trying not to stutter your words, or you're trying not to go and you get done
Yeah.
just like, oh, that felt so good. It's a whole semester
Yeah.
of anxiety and hard work
Yes.
and dedication, and you finish saying your final word and you're like, that felt good. And
Yes.
I think that's very important. Whether that end product is the final words of your presentation or a handoff document, you put all of this time, all of this effort into something that you really care about, and
Yeah.
that feeling of it's done, it's surreal. It's kind of
It really
euphoric.
is. It really is. And public speaking, I think, is the one of the top causes of um, fear
Hmm.
is public speaking. And this, both of these studios just help you get over that hump and help you. I mean, obviously, we still get nervous. It's natural. But I think that without the experience that we've had with presenting in this class, we wouldn't be as successful as we are. And building off of that, maybe I'm a pessimist, or just not nice, but it kills me when I see teams, and my teams did it too this semester, when they write a script for what they're going to say and they read it off. I get it. We're remote, and we it's hard to transition from one person to the next. But it kills me when I see freshmen coming in and that's just all they know for
Hmm.
presenting is, oh, I guess I need to write my script, or like I need to fix this on my script. It's like, that's not the point of presenting. The point of presenting is to prepare, practice, and engage the audience. Look at them instead of looking at your computer. Maybe I'm just mean and I could be the only one thinking that, but it just kind of kills me to see that sometimes, especially this past 2 semesters. But
No,
I don't
I
know.
definitely completely understand that. I mean, and it's not like, oh, in my day kind of thing. It's
Right. It's just like it's not helping you, you
yeah,
know?
it's you're not practice. You're typing a script, you're giving a presentation, but your words have no meaning. Your words are
Yeah.
off the list. You're
Yeah.
not critically thinking about what you did. You're just saying what you
Yeah.
wrote, and
Exactly.
that's
Like
often
I could have just read your script and you didn't even have to present.
exactly. And so if jumping back to the question of advice is don't I mean, you could have an outline of what you want to talk about, talking points, just
Exactly.
like you would with
Right.
a note card. You go up there with 6 note cards for each slide, and it's like, talk about persona, or what are goals and frustrations, but not like,
Exactly.
oh, meet Mark, his profession is black. It's boring. It
And
has
then it's monotone, and then no one's like, everyone's like, "Ugh."
yeah.
Like,
And so
can you talk to us, or are you just gonna read with your camera off?
yeah,
Awesome.
and so the whole thing is like, you spend a whole semester working on a project to understand feelings and change a person's feelings, and you give a presentation with no feelings.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I don't know, it's ironic, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. And maybe like I said, maybe I'm just being critical, but for Colin and whoever's watching this, I just something to consider. I really feel like that is, and obviously pandemic, changed the way we are physically together and the way we present in this class, but it kills me to see that. And I'm kind of assuming it does for you, but I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know.
it does. Because
Yeah.
like, especially in these group projects, you have the TLs who go over the scripts, and so the
Right.
TL, you have these freshmen that write their scripts, but the TLs pretty much go through and rewrite it for them. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd,
I just feel like it opens a door to behavior that doesn't help anyone, you
yeah.
know? I don't know. But that aside, um, what are you most excited about moving into the next phase of your life, Brandon? What are you most fearful of?
Oh goodness. Well,
It's a
I'm
biggie.
fearful of not finding something. Uh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, all jokes aside, I've really enjoyed my college experience. Had a lot of fun. There are definitely some things that I would have changed, but that's the same with any type of scenario. There's always things that you look back on and reflect on, and you're like, I wish I would have done more of this, or I wish I would have done less of this.
Yeah.
But for the next phase of life, we jump into the real world. It's there's no pacifiers or constraints or holds on us. We don't have as many people holding our hands, and
Yeah.
so it's really up to us to grow as independent people, and for us to kind of go out in the world and make a name for ourselves. And so that's what I'm excited for, but that's also what I'm fearful of. It's very scary to think about. We've gone through, what, 16 years of school, and someone's been there holding our hands
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah.
They've been holding our hands and pampering us, and so now it's time to see what we're really made of on our own. Um,
Yeah.
and so while that's very exciting, it's also very scary. And so it's something that we're constantly going to have to work on. And we've talked about all this collaboration and group work, and individuality is a great thing, but it can also be a really bad thing. And you're never alone, no matter where you work. Whether you're the only UX designer or you're on a team of 10, there's
Yeah.
still going to be people there as a lifeline that can help you. Even if they're not in the field of UX, it's, hey, can you look at this and give me some thoughts?
Yeah.
And so while we go out into this world as individuals, it's still, you can still make it part of a group effort.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so I mentioned this, but I still have another year here. I'm a junior, but I am out of the UX program, obviously. Um, I am most excited about similar thing. It's a two-way street, or I guess in this case, a one-way street, because I'm most excited about knowing what the real world is like, and um, knowing how our skills actually translate slash match up with those from other disciplines and also those with UX backgrounds, but from other programs. I think it's going to be exciting to see how they match up. But I have no idea. I don't know. I guess one thing I'm fearful of is I don't know what's expected of me. So this summer I have an internship with GE Aviation, and I'm pumped about it. It's a good company, from what I've heard, but I just, something I'm fearful of is sort of the unknown, which is a common fear, but I don't know how my skills will translate. Like we have all these methods in our mind, like, oh, I know how to do heuristic analysis, know how to do whatever, comparative. I know how to do sketching exercises or whatever. But it's like, how do they, I'm most fearful of how they translate. How does my knowledge translate into what tasks they actually ask me to do,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So I
Yeah.
guess it's just sort of the fear of the unknown. But I know that pretty quickly we will all adapt and get used to what that's like.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
but
and it's like, within the Purdue UX program, where we are right now, we're freaking champions. We're awesome. We're top of the food chain.
yeah,
But we get out there and we're just the freshmen again. We have no idea what the hell
yeah,
is going on.
yeah,
We're kind of being groomed and pampered into, the people that we will become. And, it may take
yeah,
only 2.5, 3 years to get to the point where we're at right now within the program, but it's going to constantly be a revolving learning experience of, you know, I know a lot, I don't know a lot. I know a lot, I don't know a lot. And so I don't know. I
yeah,
agree with you completely, is like, we have all these skills and we're the champions of the Purdue UX program, but how do those translate into the real world? I have no clue.
yeah, yeah. I saw a quote, or I used a quote about time the other day. Um, I don't remember what it was, but it was something about a cycle, where you become more familiar, and then you get new information. You become less familiar, and that cycle sort of repeats. And I think it's sort of the same idea here. Like right now, like you said, we're, Studio 5. We're top of the food chain UX program. We're POs, like, cool. But then once you get out there, they're like, older people are probably thinking, who are these 21, 22-year-old designers? What do they know?
Mm.
Because we don't have, we have some experience, but we don't have industry experience, other than maybe an internship or two. But so yeah, it's a very interesting thing to think about, to be excited about, but also to be fearful about, to be many things about. Um, Brandon, we are done with questions. Do you have any other final thoughts before we end?
I
Have
got
you?
one final thought for whoever is still here. I'll take this from my design philosophy that we did. Think of UX as a bookcase, right? you get the bookcase and it's empty, and you fill it up with books, you fill it up with knowledge, literally. And so I like to think of UX design as a bookcase, whether it's a methodology, whether it's a new learning, whatever the case, you're constantly building your bookcase and you're constantly filling it up. And even when you think it's full, you get a new one and then that one's empty. And so, it's a constant learning experience and you'll never be at the point of master, I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
look at Colin, Austin, Paul, anyone. I mean, they've a
exactly.
long time. They're teaching at an accredited university, and there's
Yeah,
still a lot they don't know. And so I
yeah,
would say just keep on learning. College doesn't end when college ends. It's not about, college isn't about going to classes from 9 to 10:30. It's about gaining a whole lot of knowledge
yeah.
and applying that in any way that you can. So I don't know.
Mhm.
That's my final advice. Anything from you?
Yeah. This is kind of abstract, but I would recommend for the younger people, and I don't know, I doubt they watch these, but maybe Colin transmits them into the curriculum somehow or into the learning objectives. I don't know. But whoever's listening to this, maybe just try to think about how you define design and ask yourself, what every week or every month or every year, like what is, ask yourself, what is design? What do you think UX design means? Who do you think it's for? I think just refreshing your idea in that way could be helpful, just to kind of renew your understanding of yourself, but also the field that you're in. Because, like Brandon said, you're never a master. You're never done learning. It's a process. Um, and so also just you can be more confident in your abilities in yourself, but I would also just say never be satisfied with how much you know. Always have a drive to find out more, look up more things. Um, so yeah, just keep your design mind refreshed, which is going to be tough for me. And I think people who have a gap in their professional lives as designers or academic lives, keeping your version of design up to date can be tough, but try to do it.
All right. Well,
Cool.
that was a
Good job, B.
felt
All right.
felt pretty good.
Yeah.
All righty.